And let's go ahead and get started. I ask that you please mute your microphones. We'll ask you to unmute when it's time for you to be part of the presentation or if you have comments to make. So welcome to the Rotary Club of Norfolk. We're going to be led in music by Eleanor Schoonover and her husband, Roger. And give me 1 second and we will get this started.
Jim, did you check the two little boxes before you hit share screen for the audio visual for the video?
We don't need audio. This is outstanding.
It looks like it sounds great.
Very expressive.
What happened? Funny.
Eleanor, the harmony is outstanding. I'm very impressed.
Well, you know, I said something about musical comedy, but it wasn't supposed to be. You're a grand old flag? You're a high flying flag? Acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. Roger's a better singer than I am. That's why he's here.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that everyone, was everyone able to hear that okay?
No.
No, we couldn't hear it at all.
You could almost hear something.
Right.
Okay.
The first one was able,
Yeah.
because today is the anniversary of the film The Sound of Music being premiered. So that was Edelweiss. Anyway, we had a good time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jim, I don't know if you heard my comment. Before you hit the second share screen button, did you check the little boxes for the optimized video and audio on the share screen box?
Hold on. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, and now if you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now if you'll join me in the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Bob Healy, if he's here?
Will it be fun?
All right, Bob, thank you. Thank you very much. We will now be led in our invocation by Jim Sell. Thank you, Jim.
Let us pray. O God of creation, as the first flowers of spring promise a renewal of life in the world around us, we trust that the easing of our pandemic will be the harbinger of a new Rotary commitment to bonding together and to helping others in our community. With the relationships and connectivity that we have, let us always remember that charity is more fulfilling than greed. An open hand is more beautiful than a closed fist. And honest effort is greater than a false promise. And the golden rule is a much richer yardstick than any bank account. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Jim. Joe Massey was not able to join us today. So I just have to pass along that Ann Morgan, part of the bookkeeping team for the club, is in the hospital. She's experiencing some health issues, so please keep her and her family in your thoughts and prayers. Are there any other Rotarians that someone knows of that could use some well-wishing from us, or some, something that we can help them with?
Jim,
Yes.
where is Anne in the hospital?
She is in Norfolk General, I believe, Centera, Norfolk. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Introduction of guests. I know we have a couple of them. Sigger, I know you have a guest.
I do. I'm delighted to introduce Deb Davis, who was talking earlier with some folks. She is a retired Norfolk public school teacher who is interested in joining our club, and she has a real passion. She was a reading specialist with Norfolk Public Schools and worked a lot in the inner city. So she has a real passion for what we've been doing with the Hunton YMCA. So welcome, Deb. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, everybody.
Well, we hope to see more of you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
Our school of the week this week is Sewell's Point Elementary School, and our rotation scribe today is Julie Kiesling. So thank you, Julie. Please speak loudly and enunciate when you're speaking. That will help her a lot. Today is our first meeting of March, and as such, we have some birthdays and anniversaries to celebrate. For Rotarians who are celebrating a birthday this March, we have Chick Robeson on March 5th. We have Irene O'Brien on March 10th. Colin McKinnon on March 12th. Dean Roges on March 13th. Anthony Rad on March 16th. On the 18th of March, we have Baranu and Bob Powell. On the 24th, we have Bryce Burton. Sally Hartman is March 27th, and Marty Race is March 29th. Eleanor, would you mind leading us in a little round of happy birthday for our Rotarians?
Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. In addition to birthdays, we also have one wedding anniversary that we have a record of, and that is Winston and Eunice Whitehurst celebrated yesterday their 57th wedding anniversary. So, what an example for a lot of people. And we have a few Rotary anniversaries. We have John McLemore celebrating 32 years, Roger Flagg celebrating 35 years, and Diane Wallach celebrating 10 years. So we really appreciate everyone's dedication as evidence to their longevity to our Rotary Club. Some bits of club business. We have a couple of blue badge converts. One of them is Kelly Stefanko, and her mentor was Lorna Cochran. So Kelly, congratulations on earning your blue badge. It was a long, laborious journey, but we're happy that you got there.
It might be a mistake because I've had a blue badge for a couple of years, but I'll take the recognition anyways. And thank you, Lauren. We'll have to have a glass of wine sometime to celebrate.
It's a double blue badge.
It's a double blue badge. It's a double secret blue badge.
Such Susan.
The other one that I have here, we'll see if this is better. We have Greg Bachheim. And while his mentor was initially Jim Clary, Jim moved away. So Greg actually changed his mentor to everyone else in the club. So Greg, congratulations on earning your blue badge. Bill Moore, would you like to give us an update on the Hunton project?
Yes, in progress. We are installing 2 Zoom classrooms, conference rooms at the Hunton. The building, technology, and Cox are not cooperating fully at this moment. We're having trouble pulling the internet back to the library and things like that. But we had Zoom working last night except for audio. And so we're in the final little bit of that. So I think the project should be, hopefully we completed this week. The technology guy got called off on another project, but we're going along there. The second half of this, I asked for some donations for buying some backup small laptops, Chromebooks for the Hunton. This club is incredibly generous. I got about $1,300 in donations, and I have 6 Chromebooks on order. Should get here today, and we will make a presentation to them sometime this week, hopefully. And there may be enough money, depending how it goes with the rooms, maybe to buy a couple more before this is all over with. So thanks to the club, I think we're going to do some real good there. I've been there quite a bit there in the last couple of weeks. It's a dynamic, exciting place, watching all those kids, 70 kids Zoom individual classrooms from one building. It's pretty spectacular. So thank you for your support.
Thanks for that update, Bill. We appreciate it. Let's see. Bill Eisenbeis wants to talk to us about some service projects. Bill? Is Bill here? Okay, I don't see Bill, so I do know
He's
that
just muted.
He's
here. He just needs to be.
I'm sorry, Bill, unmute your microphone.
still muted.
If you click in the bottom left on the microphone, it should unmute it.
Or just push your space button and that'll keep and hold it.
Bill, can you try pushing your space button? That's not working.
Jim,
Okay.
if you send him, if you click unmute on his, or Lorna, that'll send him a message and then that'll unmute him. If you send him a command.
I think Michael's got him right where she wants him.
Yeah.
I've sent that over
Yeah.
to him.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's, I know that we have 2 upcoming, our next service project is on March 10th. And that is at the food bank, and that's from 9 o'clock in the morning to 12 p.m. Also, if you go onto our website, there's 3 service projects set up for March. The first is the food bank on the 10th, and then there's a food distribution I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's one of the churches in
Jim,
Norfolk.
can you hear me now?
Now I can hear
now?
it. Yeah, Bill, all yours.
Good.
Thanks for bailing me out.
Sure. I apologize for not being as adept as I should be. You already mentioned the food bank opportunities, 3 hours, March the 10th from 9 till noon. And the one you were beginning to talk about now is there's a food distribution that takes place at the Basilica of St. Mary's. That's the Catholic basilica that's in downtown Norfolk. It's 232 Chapel Street. And it's just gone through a 3-year renovation. And I talked to the secretary there today, and she said as a treat, would we be able to, those folks that are interested, take a look into this new cathedral, which is over 100 years old. And it's really a special place. That would be an additional reason to come out and help. And then the third time is Tuesday, March the 30th. And that's at Broad Park in Norfolk. And that's basically a park cleanup activity. I'm pinch hitting for Walt Zoblick, and he's done a great job of lining these up. And I would encourage you to either sign up through the club runner or email Walt to let him know that you can participate in any or all 3 of those events.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Hey, Jim?
Yes.
Jim, in the chat, we figured out that it is Mike Richardson that got the new blue badge. I am his mentor and Lorna was his sponsor. So congrats to Mike Richardson.
Okay, Mike. Okay, we actually had, okay, thank you very much. Michael, congratulations. Congratulations on achieving your blue badge, and you actually achieved yours very quickly. So thanks for being a very active Rotarian. We appreciate that. And Kelly, thank you for setting the record straight. Okay. Sigger would like to talk to us a little bit about giving to the Rotary Foundation. Sigger?
Absolutely. Thank you, President Jim. So mark your calendars. April 6th, the district is going to be running a Rotary Day of Giving, and they will match with points donations to the Rotary Foundation annual share. So not Polio Plus, but the annual share fund. And minimum contribution is $100, and it is online. So if you do not already have your online account set up through Rotary.org, need to go do it now. And if you are already a Paul Harris Fellow +8, then you're not eligible for this match. But it's a great way to either get your initial Paul Harris Fellow or to get to the next level. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.
Thanks, Sigger. Appreciate it. Okay, so this now has us moving along to our fines and happy bucks. So a little bird has whispered in my ear about 2 of our folks who have been in the media lately. Barb Lifflin, apparently you were in the Virginian Pilot talking about the issue of whether or not vaccines obtained at military installations and the VA counted towards Virginia's numbers. Is that correct? Do we have Barb with us? Well, I read the article, so I know it's correct. And Barb, consider yourself fined. And the other person who I was going to fine if they were here was Joe Massey. Apparently his image appeared in one of our television news bits that was talking about giving judges more flexibility when it comes to sentencing. So both of them can consider themselves fined. Does anyone have any happy news that they would like to share? Michelle.
I would like to give happy bucks today for Yus being with us. I'm really pleased to have him with us. And I have another happy bucks announcement. Last week, my parents celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary. So I'm pretty happy about that.
That's awesome. That is great. Anyone else like to share some good news and happy bucks?
Jim, I don't know if it counts to have family members in the news, but I did see John Searing's daughter, Emma Searing, was in the sports page today. She was playing field hockey, and I saw her picture, but I don't see John on today, but I'll let him know.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to know that the Searing athleticism has moved to the next generation. Anyone else have some good news they'd like to share?
Hey, Jim, Barbara Liflin's on now.
Hey, Barbara. I was just, you just joined us, and we find you for having being a part of the Virginian pilot article.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was on and then I had to jump off because I got a call came in I needed to take. So
Okay.
I was going to confess, and I will submit a fine via Venmo.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And by the way, it was a very nice article. You were very prominent in it. So,
Well, I sort of generated it. I thought I would just contact them and ask if I missed a story, and they done it because I thought it was interesting. And then of course she called and said she wanted to interview me. It is what it is. I thought it was an interesting question anyway. Thanks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else have any good news they'd like to share? All right then. Well, let's go ahead and move along. Our vice president in charge of programs is Lori Harrison. And I'm not sure Lori is with us today. Lori, are you here? No. Okay. So our Rotarian of the day is Michelle Nettles. And give me 1 second here. So Michelle has been in April next month. Michelle will have been a Rotarian for 6 years. Her favorite part of being a Rotarian is meeting and spending time with so many interesting people that she would not have met otherwise. And a fun fact or two, I love that Lori asked people this. A fun fact or two is that she loves vacationing in the Keys, and that she's been in the bowels of a nuclear power plant to work an outage. And I'm just going to say, Michelle, we need some more information on that.
I did an outage. My first degree was in health physics. So before I went back and became an interior designer.
Okay. All right. Well, Michelle, you have the privilege of introducing our speaker today, Jose. Lots of you will recognize him, but I don't want to steal any of your thunder, Michelle. So you have the introduction.
Okay, there's a plane overhead. Can you hear okay? I can. Jos Hecking started his military career in 1982 with officers training at the Dutch Air Force Officers School. He worked in various positions in his own country, the Netherlands, and in the United Kingdom. After being promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, he was posted at a NATO Center of Excellence in the Netherlands. In 2017, he was posted at the NATO Command in Norfolk. His last job before retirement is the mission in Palestine he's going to lecture about today. He deployed in January 2020, only to be relieved the 18th of March of his task due to COVID-19. Mid-August, he returned to the mission. He is the military advisor for leadership courses at the Central Training Air Institute in Palestine. He was posted in Ramallah until the beginning of January 2021. At the beginning of April of this year, he will retire from active service. He is married to Rianne, and they have 3 adult children. His main hobbies are hiking and cycling. We welcome you back, Jos. So glad you are with us this morning.
Okay, thank you very much for these kind words. It's nice to be back, and although I gave myself the task to talk about my work in a way that's hopefully interesting for you, I will start with a disclaimer. If you talk about Israel and Palestine, there's always politics involved. And I provide my own opinion. It's not the opinion of the Dutch government nor the Dutch Air Force. So I speak à titre personnel. I understood the president will show you some slides. And I will talk through the slides.
Okay, give me 1 second here.
There's one tricky slide, so I can see if everybody still stays awake. Although it's for you in the afternoon, you probably will be. That's the first slide, the title. And what's interesting for you being American, I served to an American mission called the United States Security Coordinator for Israel and the Palestine Authority. Next slide, please.
Give me.
The next slide is the agenda. There are mainly four topics. A little bit of history. What is the mission? What did I do? And what is worth to mention? The next slide is the history. And I am aware in the group there are some teachers, so they probably were able to correct me, but I wrote down a few figures. The figure 4,000, many Palestinians and Jews have told me that 4,000 years ago, there was one tribe called the Semites. So the Jews and the Palestinians come from the same tribe. At that time also, Moses came to Mount Nebo, which is in Jordan, saw the Holy Country, and that's where the religion starts. 2,000 years ago, Israel was run by the Romans. They removed Jews, and at the end of the fall of Masada at 73, where more or less Jewish occupation or Jewish people living in the Holy Country ended. 800 years ago is the Crusades. That's when people walked from my country in France to the Holy Country to make it Christian again. And then we go to the Balfour Declaration in 1990. If you add 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years, 800 years ago, you might say there is no country on earth where that many battles have been fought as in the Holy Country, the bigger Jerusalem and the area where more or less I lived. In 1917, a British Minister of Foreign Affairs, Balfour, wrote a declaration, a one-pager, and the one-pager is still a lot of debate about, in which he said, I promise the land to the Jews. Although it wasn't even English at that time, and that's part of the whole debate. At the same time, and that was the reason that the Balfour Declaration was drafted, was that the emigration started to Israel. Mainly by rich Jews, one family, Rothschild, bought country, bought land, often in hospital land, swamps, malaria infested. And the first Jews actually irrigated it and started farming. 1948, and I go very fast. I do realize that, but otherwise I talk too long. War of Independence. It's a story where you have to imagine that more or less the UN said, okay, the Jews, you can have that land. And the Arabs said, we don't accept that. And they attacked. You should have never had done that because the Israelis won that war and gained land. They gained more land than when the Arabs had accepted the fact that the state of Israel was established. Then in 1967, the Israelis started the war. And that's important to realize. It was a preemptive strike. And the result of the war was they won the Golan Heights, the West Bank, that's mainly where I worked, Gaza, Jerusalem, and the Sinai. The Sinai they returned later due to the Carter, Arafat, and the Sadat agreement. But that's not relevant for the story today. What is relevant is the Oslo Accords in 1993. In 1993, they said, okay, we will divide the West Bank in 3 different areas. Next slide, please. And the 3 different areas is the area A, mainly are the big cities. Cities you probably heard as Jericho, Ramallah, Hebron, Jenin, Kalkilia, so the bigger populated areas. And by the way, when you see this map, this is the West Bank, which is probably in your newspaper at least every week. It's probably just as big as the Hampton Roads area, and probably even smaller. Area B is the Palestinian people, but Israeli security, and Area C is off limits for the Palestinian security forces and is more or less run by the Israelis. This is the huge debate. What is Area A, Area B, Area C? I won't go too far in it, but it's the result of the Oslo Accords, which was a mutual agreement between Palestine and Israel. Next slide, please. I'll give you a second to read this. Okay, the two pictures underneath. This is the wall that surrounds the complete area, which you've seen in previous slides. This wall is in feet, 20 meters, is 60 feet high. It's barren, it's supported by watchtowers, and there is no access. Where I took the picture on the left, you see an orchard. The orchard will continue on the other side of the wall, but the owner of the orchard is not able to come to the other side of the wall. So that means that his land, his olive trees, which sometimes were in his family for hundreds of years, he's not able to harvest them. This, and this is a political statement, is a shame in the Western world to see such a wall. And even the picture doesn't do judgment if you stand in front of it. You see how high it is. Next slide, please. Okay, what is important about this organization? Never too much, of course, but what I would like to mention, it's headed by an American 3-star general. You probably know I admire Americans, I admire American military, but this man was on leave at Christmas, and at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, he woke up to do an office call when I got my American Service Medal, and he actually congratulated me on his free time at 7 o'clock in the morning. That is exemplary leadership, and he's highly appreciated by the Palestinians, the Israelis, and the people working for him. On the chart, you will see 6 Dutch flags. That are the 6 officers who work there, 3 in Ramallah and 3 in Jerusalem. And for your perspective, from Jerusalem to Ramallah is about the same distance as from Virginia Beach to Norfolk. It's about a 20-minute ride, and it can also take an hour when the traffic is bad. Next slide. What is special about the UCC? You will see it's a relatively small mission. It's only 80 packs, mainly American, Canadian, UK, a few Dutch, 2 Turks, an Italian, 1 Polish, and 1 Bulgarian officer. But the American general reports directly to the Secretary of State. He has direct access. For the Americans, especially during the time of the peace proposal or the deal of the century from Trump, he was the only one still communicating with Abbas, the president of Palestine. So this kept the line of communications open, which is important in any process or peace process. The fact that he reports to the Secretary of State also means that he has influence. Excuse me?
Unprofessional behavior? Question.
I missed that remark. Bill, what did you say?
I didn't hear it,
Did anybody hear what he said?
No.
I don't mind an interruption, by the way. Please feel free.
Yeah.
I don't mind at all. In relation of money, the amount of money the US spends on this mission is 350 million a year. And almost this amount, more or less, since 1994. So the commitment of the US for this mission, a lot of the money spent on infrastructure, A lot of the money spent on material from cars, weapons, computers, communication equipment is enormous. The main responsibility is to assist the PA, Palestinian authorities, to assist in structuring their security forces. The amount of security forces is 60,000, and there are 9 pillars. And it's differently arranged than in our or in NATO countries, but it is police, border guard, military, presidential guard, logistics, intelligence. So they have more different structures, but in total 60,000. Compared to my country of 70 million, we have 60,000 military, Air Force, Navy, and Army. So it's relatively quite a lot. It's also a lot because it's work. It generates work and education to many of the young people. They coordinate with the Palestinians, but they also coordinate with the Israelis, and they assist. You may also say it, they when the Palestinians and the Israelis are not able to talk to each other directly, they use the UCC. And that works quite well. That also worked quite well in the time of the heavy tension during the deal of the century. And that was when I was just started working there. Next slide, please. What was my task? I worked in Jericho. Jericho is an interesting city. It's the oldest permanently inhabited city in the world. It's 1,200 meters below sea level. And that it's always warm. When the Palestinians were complaining about the heat, I'm probably glad of my Virginia Beach experience. When it was about 110, 120 degrees, they thought it was really hot. And I said, if you're from the Netherlands, this is nice. If you're used to a gray sky, it's nice that it's always a blue sky and warm. From Ramallah to Jericho, it's a 45-minute drive, and you go down 3,000 feet. In temperature, and this I didn't look up in Fahrenheit, but in degrees, it's 1 degree of every 3,000 feet. So I could leave in the morning with rain and fog, and it was cold, and 45 minutes later, it was a blue sky and it was warm. It's also green. It seems desert, but there's water, there are springs everywhere. That's why it's the oldest inhabited city of the world. It's also where the Mount of Temptation is for the people who have read the Bible. That's also in Jericho. And in there is a General Military Training Commission, GMTC, the military loves abbreviations. And I worked at the Central Training Institute, CTI, a modern building and modern techniques. I was surprised by the level of education of my Palestinian colleagues. Some educated in Russia, some educated in India, Pakistan, Egypt, Yemen, Saudi. A lot of them with master degrees, 2 of them a PhD. They were well-educated people. They lacked, however, the management skills we are used to. The hierarchy, he's from the same clan, we have to listen to him. That part I could assist them in changing. Next slide, please. I assisted with leadership courses. And you have to see it if we compare it to even the US, junior, intermediate, and senior. Junior is lieutenant, young captain level, intermediate, a major, lieutenant colonel level, and senior leadership course, War College. The senior leadership course, I assisted 1. You will have the age group between 48 till 52, and they should be the colonels and the brigadiers of the future. A course relatively short, 3.5 months, but they have to write a thesis according to academic standards, and they were able to. And worth publishing. So it's the level is higher than I expected at the beginning. Part of the work I did was mentoring trainers and providing feedback and arranging the financial support. The courses cost money. And that's mainly in the materials or the things they haven't got available and they have to rent. And all that request went to me. I had to find funds. The funds were there, and I had to funnel that through, and I had to assist them in, probably Western accounting. And that's not ask for cash money and come back with a handwritten receipt. No, the whole, how do you procure things, the whole procurement procedure, I had to teach them, and I guess I managed. Next slide, please. The West Point of Palestine is called Al Istiqlal. It's also in Jericho, 2 miles from where I worked. I had a Dutch colleague working there. And the leadership model assistance was done through the instructors. So a lot of the instructors also educated abroad, also some in Sandhurst, mainly Egypt. But the leadership techniques, which are common in the Western world, were less familiar with them. And either we gave that leadership courses, or we taught the trainer, and they have to do it in the future. And the next step is the implementation of quality assessment, that they're able to do it themselves, and they're able to evaluate themselves and to rectify deficiencies in the future. Next slide, please. Just to see if everybody's awake, because part of it is in Dutch. You know, I think I should bring you a little bit of my language too. What's worth to mention? The first thing, it is always, okay, almost always, it is about politics. If you work there, you have to read about the history of Israel, the history of Palestine, the Bible, the Muslim belief, part of the Quran, because all the discussions will go, that will be a topic. And they are used, probably for the people who visited the southern part of Europe, Italy, Spain, Mexico, they throw rubbish everywhere. The concept of a rubbish bin, they have it in the houses, outside, you can throw everything outside your car. At the beginning, I was completely shocked, but that's part of the mentality. The corruption, which is obvious. You probably read the newspaper about corruption in Israel. Netanyahu was prosecuted. The amount of expensive cars I have seen driving in Ramallah, from BMW, Range Rover, Porsche, Maserati. I have seen more beautiful cars there than I've seen in Virginia Beach and Norfolk together. And with an average income of $1,500, that shouldn't be the case. What is very clear to me is the Palestinians suffer under the occupation. The fact that they live in a Hampton Roads area and they are not allowed to leave if they don't have a permit, and you have to apply for a permit. So they're not even allowed to leave to Jordan or to go to Israel without a permit. You're more or less confined in the Hampton Roads area. The fact that they live on water resources, but they are not allowed to pump the water out of their own grounds. The fact that they are not free of movement. And also, I have been victim of checkpoints, and it stressed me out. It is my diplomatic license plate in my uniform with my Israeli ID. It's not always easy if you have at random checkpoints and you have to live there. The country is spectacularly beautiful. I realize the picture is a little bit small, but the picture on the left is where I park my car, and that's what you see. You see desert. You hike 30 minutes, and then you see the picture on the right. I'm actually walking through water, and actually a little bit later we were swimming. And then you walk up again, and then you see the desert again. And what you see is the wadis are natural resources, water coming out of the mountain for centuries and centuries, where the Bedouins lived for 4,000 or 5,000 years in the same way. Actually, we've still seen the Bedouins living that way. And if you love hiking, like I do, I love cycling, but with that hills, it's hard to cycle there. It's spectacularly beautiful. Palestinians are very hospitable and very friendly. I have not one negative encounter. I'm actually buying on the market fruit and vegetables, and they say 40 shekel. I pay 40, and then they call you back, no, 1.4. And they give me 24 shekel back, which is an equivalent of $4. I would have loved to pay the $4 more, but no, they don't want to have your money if it's if it's not yours. And also, a lot of Americans will understand it. The food is absolutely delicious. The kitchen, which is a lot of meat, a lot of lamb, but also beef. The way they use their herbs, the seasonal food. So they have different food every season, and you have the seasons, like in the Hampton Roads area. It's spectacularly beautiful. It's the hummus, it's yogurt, a lot of fresh vegetables, but also a lot of herbs. Is absolutely beautiful. And then the last slide, I'll still stay under the 20 minutes. And that's what I'd like to mention again, is the wall. This is the wall by Bethlehem. And part of the wall was called Bansky, by the artist who painted part of the wall to make it, I would not say, to give it a little bit different than just the wall. A lot of artists all over the world came, and especially Bethlehem, to paint on the wall, because Bethlehem, which is in principle the birthplace or for Roman Catholics, for Christians, a very important city. Majority of the people living there now, by the way, are Muslims, but they live in harmony with the Christians. In many other cities, there are a lot of Christians in Palestine. They live in complete harmony. I have seen no religious misunderstanding between them in Palestine. But this part is a very sad part. It's very sad if you want to go to Bethlehem to see the church, which is 15 miles if you could fly, and it's 1.5 hours because you have to cross various checkpoints, and you have to cross this wall to go there. And that's probably a little bit a political statement. I do realize that. I haven't mentioned Israel. I traveled to Israel. I've been in Jerusalem. I've seen the Western Wall, of course. I've been to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is a spectacular modern town with high rises. You can't imagine. The last time I visited Tel Aviv was 30 years ago. It's unbelievable how Western, how beautiful, how well landscaped city that is. And from Ramallah to Tel Aviv, it's only a 30-minute ride, and then another 30 minutes for the last 2 miles, because it's a metropole with not enough roads or too many cars. Israel itself is very Western, is very well organized. The medical services are absolutely standard. Food is brilliant. The whole Mediterranean kitchen is very good. And the difference between Palestine and Israel is probably what I mentioned in my previous slide, the rubbish and the corruption you can see. So the difference between poor and rich in Palestine is much, much bigger. But Palestine is well educated. They have in Ramallah Rotary. I've attended a few events. Last year, they donated $120,000 of respirators to hospitals. They support, I believe, 10 heart operations on babies in Jerusalem by poor people, poor Palestinians. So it's a very active club. East Jerusalem has 2 Rotary clubs, one Jewish and one Palestinian, very active. All in the region, they work in the region with the Arab countries, the Palestinian ones, and they do a lot in assistance of the poor. I just read a remark about food. I love to eat, so I will skip that part. I love the food in the US too. Don't worry. So I would like to conclude my briefing. Of a personal note, I felt privileged as a Christian to be able to work and live in that part of the world. That I've been able to visit Nazareth, to be able to visit Bethlehem, to see Jericho, the Mount of Temptation. And you also see that it's not only the birthplace of Christianity, it's also the birthplace of Judaism, and it's the birthplace of Muslim. And if that's all the birthplaces are confined to such a small area, it's probably the reason, what I said in the beginning, that no country on earth has seen that many bloodshed as the tiny country of Israel and Palestine together. This concludes the lecture I have prepared. Are there any questions? There's one more slide with questions. You could go one slide, and you can see that it's the mouse cap. We had to work there too, and that is, so there was Corona, but on a different way than here.
All right, does anyone have questions for Jose?
Is there any, Jose, this is Joe New, is there any integrated education where Palestinian and Jewish kids are going to the same high schools or playing in the same soccer league, or is it strictly segregated?
I'm afraid it's strictly segregated, but that wasn't the case till probably the first Intifada in the late 1980s. Jews and Muslims lived together in harmony. I've spoken a Jewish lady from my age who speaks perfect Arabic because her neighbors were Arabic when she grew up in Jerusalem, and her neighbors came to her table and the other way around. But the first and the second Intifada, more or less, actually drifted them apart. They live in different houses, they live, and even the Arabs in Israel themselves, there is not much friendship between Arabs and Jews in Israel themselves. That is very unfortunate. There are a lot of initiatives, also Jewish initiatives, to invite high school students to stay at their houses, to have debating classes, but that is all very difficult. It's getting more polarized, and that's a shame.
And the Rotarians are polarized also?
No, not at all. Not at all. The Rotarians are the same as in your and my country, high educated, have traveled the world, have businesses partly abroad. They know how it works, and they say we need peace, and that is more prosperity. That is, and the Rotarian Club in Jerusalem, actually, I was welcomed in my language, by somebody who immigrated, made Aliyah 30 years ago, and was very happy he could speak Dutch at a Rotary meeting. They have the same point of view. They say, oh, it's pity due to COVID I had to leave in March, because the aim was to bring a few Palestinians to the Rotary meeting in Jerusalem. But they are not allowed to drive their car, but I am, so I could give them a lift. And they were more than willing to do it. So they said, it's nice, invite a few Palestinians to our Rotary meeting. That will have a lively discussion, because individuals don't dislike each other. Groups do, I found out.
Jose, you mentioned that the funding was like $380 million annually. Does all of that come from the US, or do some of the other countries, in addition to supporting with personnel, do they also budget for it also?
Yeah. The Canadians, I never found out how much. It varies per year, but I believe the Canadians last year did 20 million. The Americans, they were quite open about the amount of money they give. And the start of this mission was the Americans, I believe they do 11 billion support to Israel, American government. And due to the Oslo Accords, they had to counterbalance that. If we support Israel in building a state, we should support the Palestinians in building a state. And that was how they started the mission. And how do we use the money to assist them in building their own state? Because before that, there wasn't the state. It was people living in an enclosed area. So the whole state building issue, part of USCC, but I go further detail, is a system to build a legal system, to assist them to build a system of waste removal, of clean water, of a ministry of energy. So to build a state as we are used to have a state. And that's just much more than just building the security forces. So that assistance is done on many levels. I've attended an exercise, and the exercise was partly about a natural disaster. It's an earthquake area. So how do different areas communicate with each other? And an earthquake will also affect Jordan and Israel. How do we communicate? What type lines of communication we have? Have we met each other beforehand? How can we open hospitals if we have more than a certain amount of victims? All that computer equipment was provided by the Canadians. A lot of the education was provided jointly by the Canadians and the Brits. So there is a lot of, it's one mission, but every country has its own aspect, what they do. The Brits are very good in assisting building an HR system. So how do you, if you have people, how do you pay them? How do you arrange pensions? How do you arrange healthcare? All that type of issues. I saw one question in chat, half. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Jose, what are you looking forward to in retirement?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Okay.
Okay.
Never a dull moment in life. My wife accepted the job in the Dutch Caribbean island of Bonaire, which is in the Caribbean, and I will follow her the 1st of April. And probably not for 2 years, but for at least a couple of months, I will probably live half in the Caribbean and half in the Netherlands. And maybe visiting the US in between if everything is open again. So I'm not taking a second job this year. Let's say probably next year, but I've done 39 years. So I've done my bit at the moment. And I'm not tired. I still feel young, but my next step shouldn't be the next job. I know that's very un-American. I'm aware of that, but okay, I'm Dutch.
Any other questions for Jose?
I think I'll throw one out there and
sure.
just a comment. Thank you, Joost, for sharing your career with us, because it was just fascinating. And I wish you much happiness and relaxation in your retirement.
Thank you very much indeed. Very kind.
Joost, be sure and get a big enough place so that we can come visit you in Bonaire.
You're more than welcome. We have quite a big place, actually. And we're driving a good Chevy again. She bought a Chevy over there. You know, big cars in my country don't work, but in the Caribbean it works.
Is there time to ask a big question?
Yes, go right ahead, Verano.
Thank you for a wonderful, informative presentation. And my question is just to imagine. As you know, the most holy place for the Jewish people and the most holy place for the Muslim people is connected. You remember how it is in Jerusalem. On the hill is a worship place for the Jews, and on the top is for the Muslims. So in other words, we cannot divide Jerusalem. It's impossible to recreate it and have the heritage. So what do you think we could be thinking in terms of building bridges to make peace so that there is common ground and shared culture and shared way of living in that place?
I think if I have the answer to this question, I will receive the Nobel Prize next year. So I'm afraid I don't have the answer. If I have a few minutes, I can elaborate a little bit on it. I met the president of the Rotary Ramallah, and it's a lady, and she's from Hebron, and her father was born in Akko, and Akko is south of Tel Aviv, and she had no permission to visit the birthplace of her father. And I asked my Israeli counterpart permission for her to enter Israel, and it was granted. So we went to Akko, and then we went to Jerusalem. And due to COVID, the holy city was more or less closed. But there is the Mount of Olives. You can see the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the most holy for the Muslims, where Mohammed went to heaven, which is built on the wall of the Second Temple. So exactly as your question, both religions completely together. So she could see the most holy place where she would love to pray, but she's not allowed to pray. But she was grateful that she could see it. So part of the question, the answer of the question is that you can use both facilities even at the same time. You can pray over there in the wall, and the Muslims can pray on top of it. And there are separate accesses. So if you allow everybody to access their holy sites, and even you could regulate it, or you could ask permission. But if everybody is able to pray at their holy places, a lot of the problems should go away. The moment when you avoid them doing that, that gives the problem. When Jerusalem was from Jordan, so after 48, they didn't allow Israelis to pray. So the first thing the Israelis did when they capture it, they start praying there, but they always allowed Muslims to pray. So if you forbid somebody else, you lack a debate. Why was that president not able to pray in the mosque? Because she lives in the West Bank and has no permission to enter Israel. So that is where it becomes so difficult. And I think a lot of the bloodshed in the world will go away if people try to understand each other. The fact that you just try to understand my English is a very good example of that. If you put effort in something, that would be it would be much easier to understand each other and to realize that people are different and have different needs. And different needs could be pray at a different location. And I know it's not 100% answer, but it's at best and I can come up with.
Thank you. Thank you. Your English and my English as well.
I understood you perfectly.
Anyone else with questions? Well, Jost, thank you very much for coming back and joining us. It's great to see you. Congratulations on your retirement, and thank you for your 39 years of dedication, to helping on a global basis. You're a wonderful Rotarian, and as you are well aware, one of the things that we do for our visiting speakers is we dedicate a book in your honor to go to our School of the Week. And so this week, a book engraved in your honor will be presented to Sewell's Point Elementary School. So thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to see you. If you do take a side trip into the United States, if they can, take a little break from the wonderful weather in Bonaire, feel free to come join us in person when we're back at that.
Yeah. I saw the last question. I will remain a Rotarian. I will be a Rotarian back home in the Netherlands, but there is a Rotary in Bonaire, and I've already seen that. So I'm now familiar to visit different meetings. Yes, I will stay a Rotarian, that's for sure.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again very much, and thank you.
It was all my pleasure.
The pleasure was ours, and it's great to see you. Great to see everyone at the meeting. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, March 9th, and Lacey Weaver from the HRSD Community Education and Outreach Specialty Group will be talking to us. Also wanted to let you know that our next board meeting for March will be March 8th at 4:30, and if you are interested in attending, just get in touch with me and I'll make sure that you get the Zoom invitation. So thank you again. Thank you, Jost, and great to see everyone, and have a wonderful week. We're adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Jim, Dave Duncan here.
Yes, Dave.
Would you be kind enough to invite me to the board meeting via Zoom so I can?
Yes, absolutely.
Work on the distinction?
Yep. I'll
feel a little guilty.
Gotcha. I will get that. I will get that to you. Okay.
Say, Jim, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Did I hear you talking about food bank?
Yes, food bank on March March 10th at 9 o'clock in the morning.
March 10th,
He left.
what time?
9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, March the 10th.
Yeah. Do you want me to sign you up?
Well, I have to check to see if I can come.
Okay.
Do I call you or something if I can?
Yeah. If you give me a call, I can get you signed up.
Yeah, give me your phone.
477-9193.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Okay. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, bye.
Okay. Take care. Bernie, looking good there. Hey, Lorna, is it okay if I give you a call? You're muted, but I'll give you a call offline. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.